All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. We'll call this meeting to order. Members of the subcommittee, if you will, follow along. We will move quickly. We'll start in section 24, 24.1.3 through 24.1.9. This is our Ag Ed ads. We'll start with a number of items here. On number 24.1.3, we are not reducing those funds. 24.1.4, we're annualizing the salary increase that was given. As you will see, this will impact about 600 staff for a total of $94,000. 24.1.5, this is a $100,000 add for 84 employees to impact the per member per month rate on the health insurance increase. 24.1.6, $110,000 to fund 10 new Ag Ed programs, which we do each year. 24.1.7 to add $100,000 for a young farmer position in Bibb County. And then 24.1.8 and .9 are adding program-specific staff for a total of about $400,000 there. If you'll turn over to 24.3.4 to add $500,000 for our STEM software via gamification program. 24.5.2, $250,000 to increase our support for communities and schools, which I think this committee has been very diligent and very focused on supporting over the past. I do want to draw your attention to 24.6.4. This is a $2.5 million add to fund those PSAT and AP exams that we have paid for. We've seen tremendous growth in this, as well as very high demand in these two tests, and so this is something that we're going to focus on funding in the base moving forward. But we're talking about quite a few exams. If you'll flip over to 24.7 in curriculum development, you're going to see that we're going to make a number of transfers here in just a few minutes throughout this document as they relate to literacy and where we're putting those items. So when I reference a number of transfers out, you will see them transferring in a few minutes. 24.9.4, this is a formula true-up. 24.12, the Literacy Coach Initiative. So this is the first place where you'll see dollars there from a literacy standpoint. This continues our focus on those RESA-based literacy coaches in our K-5 system. This is adding 116 coaches, bringing that total to 116 coaches for that $18.5 million that you'll see there. 24.3.7 is a formula true-up. 24.13.8. This continues, Chairman Dickey, our focus on character education programming that we've seen great success across the state with. 24.13.9 is a formula true-up. 24.13.10, again, this is a transfer as it relates to Universal Reading Screener, which you'll see coming back in just a few minutes. 24.13.11, this is a $150,000 add for our feminine hygiene grants due to our inflation and increased enrollments in those economically disadvantaged, for those economically disadvantaged students in grades 5 through 12. Last year we passed Senate Bill 464, which called for a $15 million infusion of cash to provide stipends, a $100 supply amount stipend to each teacher. So we're funding $7.5 million, our half there. 24.14.3, continued focus of this House and this committee as school nutrition. We're simply adding hold harmless language there to continue and maintain the current funding. We know that while the number of students needing those meals may have gone down, if anybody has bought eggs lately or anything else for that matter, the rising cost of meals has offset that. 24.16.2, we have a new federal bus driver training requirement and mandate, and this is the first year cost. Here, if y'all see the $158,000 to pay for that for about 20,000 users across the state, that cost will be cut in half next year. We'll move quickly through a whole bunch of formula true-ups. Here we go. 24.17.1, 24.18.1, 24-19-2, 24-19-3, 24-19-4, all formula true-ups where you see different amounts. We'll continue with 24.20.3. And then 24-22-2, our school nurses, this is that same calculation and comment that I made just a minute ago about school nutrition. We have a hold harmless language there, even though there is a decline in elementary school enrollment. 24.23.2, we're adding $150,000. This is an agency request to fund a position to oversee all of those school safety dollars, those safety grants, that $109 million that's in the budget, plus the infusion that the governor provided of an additional $50 million. That person who was overseeing that funding was paid through a federal grant. And since that grant's ending, we want to make sure we have a dedicated person who can oversee a whole lot of dollars to make sure they go where they're supposed to. 24.23.3, this is a $25 million add to focus on school safety. These are the startup funds for the first year of the database, ongoing funds for the BTAM teams. We've all voted on that bill, and we know where those priorities are. 24.24.1, this is a $715,000 adjustment based on the governor's recommendation. This is going back to House Bill 318 that was about charter school commission compliance last year. But specifically, these new positions are to provide support to schools that are trying to become locally approved charter schools. 24.25.4 is a formula true-up. You'll go with me to 24.26, and our student support services. These are some pretty major investments that we as a committee and we as a House are making here to further support our students. The first $20 million add targets $20,000 per middle and per high school for 979 schools across the state to provide them with a mental health provider, whether that's through telehealth, hiring in-school staff, really concentrating on continuing our focus on mental health. 24-26-2 to provide an additional $5 million for social workers. This is to target those 75 schools that have no form of social worker so that we can put someone there, give them access, give those students access to much needed resources. 24-26-3, this is our, if any of you are familiar with the concept of BOOST and the BOOST program and the reference to BOOST 2.0, this is a $10 million add to continue to support our out-of-school and after-school, as I would say, initiatives. And then lastly, in that same section, 24.26.4, $28 million add to create a poverty weight inside our QBE formula. We can talk offline about who is eligible and how that can be calculated. 24.27.1 is a formula true-up. If you've been around the last couple of years, 24.27.6 will make a lot of sense to you, where we've worked on those heavy equipment simulators. We've seen great success across the state. Side note, if y'all haven't been in one of those heavy equipment simulators, please contact me. Let me show you how to get in touch with those guys and go sit in one of those simulators and see what we're teaching high school kids how to do. It's pretty amazing. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. If you've never moved dirt and filled up a dump truck, this is something you need to partake in for sure. Very happy to support that. 24.27.7 is just annualizing that raise. We have a new, as Floor Leader Gamble knows and has been a great advocate for, our Georgia Center for Civic Engagement. They finally became a career and tech student organization, and so on 24.27.8 program I'm very proud to support. And they oversee our youth assembly, if anybody's been here for that. So we're adding $100,000 to that. We will flip over to, almost done, 25.4.2 in ERS. We're simply adding $23 million to what's already in the base for a total of $50 million so that we can add an increase, our one-time payment to our retirees. And let's wrap up with our literacy initiatives. I guess we've got one quick item before we get there. 27.10.3. Y'all, our PSC and our ethics investigators are handling 20,000 cases a year. They've gone the last 9 years without having additional headcount staff, but that workload has increased 210%, so we're adding 2 full-time investigators for the 222,000 you see there. Another literacy transfer there, but lastly, if you'll pull over to 27.14 in GOSA, you will see where we begin to add more dollars here for literacy for our coaches, for our universal reading screener. If y'all see on 2714.3, this coincidentally, we did the blind, as I call it, the blind tasting of the screeners that were available, and this is the one that was chosen. It's actually the lowest cost screener, so great to know that it's the best and the lowest cost. 27.14.14, $250,000 ad for that literacy coach coordinator position. And then we really want, in 27.14.5, want to supplement what we're doing from a literacy standpoint with those competency-based, research-based facts and figures. And so you will see that there. That's all I have. Are there any questions from the committee? Hearing none, what's the will of the committee? We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, like sign. Thank you. We stand adjourned.